Welcome to Bonnie's Beat. I'm your host, Bonnie Squires. We're coming to you from Radnor Studio 21 in beautiful downtown Wayne. We like to feature people who are doing something important in the community, either in academia, in politics, charity world, and I have a very interesting speaker. I only met her this past week, but it's been a pleasure to see her in action. Her name is Karen Keating Mara Esquire, and she happens to have her legal offices in Wayne. How about that? Karen, thank you for coming into the studio. I know you're a busy lady.
Well, it's my pleasure, Bonnie. Thank you for inviting me.
And you had the most successful inaugural women's luncheon for the benefit of City Year just this week, and it was fabulous. You had how many people?
We had over 300 really exciting women in the room to share the event with us.
And it's a shame you couldn't get a well-known speaker. You had to settle for Mika Brzezinski, the co-host of Morning Joe.
Yes, I know. We were so honored that she made the time to join us. In fact, she was really gracious in arranging her schedule to be there, and she, as I know you spent a little time with her too, she couldn't have been more engaged.
She posed for pictures for everybody. She let me take a picture of her with Charisse Lilly, from the president of the Comcast Foundation, who I'm sure I could see her finger in the pie when I saw that it was Mika who was going to be the keynote speaker.
Charisse has been such a long-time supporter of City Year that actually when our committee started organizing the idea to have the event, Charisse is who we reached out to first because she's been so involved. The Comcast Foundation and Comcast NBC Universal has been such a tremendous supporter. My co-chair of the local City Year Advisory Board is Art Block, who's the general counsel of Comcast Corporation. So the Comcast ties run deep.
It's very nice.
Yes.
Very nice.
It was helpful. When the invitation went to Mika, it didn't come from me.
Yes, very nice. Anyway, how long have you been the co-chair of the advisory board? Because City Year is a national nonprofit that grew out of AmeriCorps.
That's correct.
Harris Wofford's creation
That's right.
under President Kennedy. So
Yes.
It's been around a long time.
It has. City Year Philadelphia started in 1997, so we've been here for 17 years now. We've been serving in Philadelphia and primarily in the schools. I've been co-chair just for the last 2 years, and prior to that, the co-chair and one of the founding co-chairs of the board was Joe Banner, who was the president of the Eagles at the time.
Oh, yes.
So Joe and a gentleman named Phil Baer were the original chairs of the board here in Philadelphia. They brought City Year to Philadelphia many years ago, along with then Mayor Rendell, and then City Council Michael Nutter. So we had a group of very committed folks at the very beginning who brought City Year from Boston to Philadelphia, because both Phil Baer and Joe Banner had seen its work in Boston and said we need to have this here in Philadelphia for our community.
Now explain exactly what City Year does, who does it, do they get paid to do it, and so on.
So City Year is an educational-focused nonprofit that partners with schools in the inner city to
public schools.
Public schools, public and charter schools.
Well, charter schools are public schools.
They are.
We have to keep reminding people.
That's true. I'm glad you know the distinction.
Are public schools.
There's from public funds.
Public funding.
Correct. So we partner with schools in the city to help keep kids in school and on track through targeted interventions that are based on research that comes out of Johns Hopkins University. How we deliver those services is really unique. We have what we call core members, which are young people between the ages of 17 and 24 who go through a very rigorous application process and then do a year of service with us.
I thought they had to be college graduates already.
No, you can if you can have your high school diploma or a GED as well, and you can be considered for application. The fact is, over the years, it's become more competitive, so the vast majority of our core members are in fact college graduates. But it's not if you're a high school graduate and you want to do a gap year, you could also apply.
Okay.
So if you get through the process, and because we really like to.
Now, if they want to serve in Philadelphia,
Yes.
and they live in the region, to whom do they to whom do they send their application?
We have a centralized recruitment that goes through our national office through the website www.cityyear.org.
Well, let's put that up on the screen. Here we go. www.cityyear.org. Okay.
And any person or parent who's interested in learning more about becoming a core member can go to the website, and you have an option as you go through these screens of the application to choose which sites you're interested in. And we have 25 sites around the country, one of which, of course, is Philadelphia.
Okay, so they just click on Philadelphia, and then they get all the information.
They get all the information about our work here in Philadelphia, and and they can continue through the application process. They begin their year in August, at the beginning of the year, because we serve in the school throughout the whole school year. So our core members begin their year much like a school year. They start in August with some very intense training. So we use, again, university-based and research-based techniques to train these young people on how to be effective tutors and role models in the classroom, how to partner with teachers and administrators to help the kids who are listed as people who needing help. So we try to have targeted interventions between the grades 3 and 9 because that's where research shows if you can keep a child on track entering into 10th grade, there is a 75% chance that they are going to graduate.
And the dropout rate by 9th grade in Philadelphia is something like 50%. I know 66%?
The current dropout rate in Philadelphia is 66% of students don't graduate from high school in the city of Philadelphia.
But 9th grade seems to be the turning point where you lose half of your students. And State Representative Jim Roebuck, who is the Democratic chairman of the House Education Committee, he has been fighting this for years and trying to put through legislation. In certain regimes, like under Rendell, he was very successful in getting, because then he was the majority chair of the Education Committee, and he's the one that was responsible for all-day kindergarten, smaller class size, a lot of early education reforms that make a difference, because if you put the money in between 3 and 5, you don't have to pay for prison at the other end.
You're precisely right. There's some research that shows for every high school dropout, there's $1 million of lost earning potential over a lifetime, and that there's an additional almost $300,000 of cost of actual cash outlays, through social services and otherwise that are required by society. So clearly, whatever we can do to give extra resources at that critical period where children are forming the most important, learning patterns of their lives that will carry them through graduation to college, to professions that they can support themselves with. That's what City Year does. We do it in a unique way, using the idealism and the youth and the near peers of young people to do that. So teachers and administrators have their work cut out for them. They are, they have more than they can handle in terms of in the inner city in particular, with what the children bring into the classroom, by no fault of their own, of course, but they have a lot of challenges, and the school can do as much as they can. City Year provides a unique resource that we partner with them to say, we know there are 3 early warning indicators: falling off in attendance, disruptive behavior, and poor course performance in literacy and math. If a child illustrates any one of those, each year that perpetuates, the likelihood of dropping out increases dramatically. So we focus on, our core members are trained to focus on supporting students to get them back on track in those areas. We are there before the day starts at school, and they provide this energetic cheering section to get kids excited about going to school.
Now, is every City Year volunteer assigned a particular student, or they're assigned a classroom, they work with a teacher? How do they get involved?
Once you're assigned to a team that's assigned to a school, so you'll be between 8 and 15 members of a team, and it'll be a very diverse team of men, women, people from different socioeconomic and racial backgrounds working together to deliver these services. Once you're in the school, we partner with the administrators and the teachers to determine where can we be most effective. Schools often develop focus lists of students who are off track or on the verge of getting off track, and those are the students we focus on. So we deliver a specific dosage of interventions in terms of both of tutoring and in classroom supports during the day, as well as after school programming after the day's over.
Now I know why Marcus Allen, the CEO of Big Brother, Big Sister, was at your luncheon, because it sounds like what you're doing with your City Year volunteers in the schools is what Big Brother, Big Sister does outside of the school day.
That's true. There's so many great organizations that we're all trying to create kind of a mosaic of supports to help the children in the inner city schools that need more support to get to where they need to go to get to graduation. So we're there from before school opens until well after it ends, and then we collect data on what we're doing and how the children are doing. So we can, we're constantly reassessing, are the interventions effective? Are we targeting the right students? And we're working with the administrators in the district to do that. So Dr. Height has been a tremendous supporter of ours since he arrived.
Not so new anymore, but
yes.
the most recent superintendent
Correct.
of schools in Philadelphia, who is wrestling with shortfalls because the state legislature, in their wisdom, does not have a formula, or they have canceled the formula that used to be in place that funded the schools adequately. So, I mean, I think the state used to fund like 50-some% of the public schools and budget, and now they're down to like 34%. So I know that some people running for re-election argue with that, but you can't argue with the statistics when you see the budget numbers.
I think school districts across the state, regardless of their location, are struggling.
Oh, absolutely. And because the way they raise the money is the property tax. So every school district has been raising the taxes. So maybe the governor didn't raise the taxes, but he forced every municipality to raise the taxes. So.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of commentary out there that suggests that we don't have an effective formula to supporting our schools.
And one of the problems is the legislature, they only make a one-year budget. I mean, they should have 5-year budgets. I mean, because, it depends who's elected, who's not elected, what vision is running the budget process, whether or not everybody's included in the discussion or nobody's included in the discussion. So
it's certainly a challenge.
Excuse me. But let's find out who Karen Keating Merritt is. Where'd you go to college? Where'd you grow up? Where'd you go to high school?
So I grew up in Delaware County in Drexel Hill, and I went to public school through 8th grade, and then I went over to Cardinal O'Hara High School in Springfield. And after that, I went to Temple University. So I stayed local, and I worked during school, so I was kind of a commuter student.
What did you major in at Temple?
Finance. So I was a business major, and I got my degree in business.
Were you in the Fox School of Business?
Yes.
Before it was the Fox School.
Yeah, it may have been before it was the Fox School.
I think
that's right.
Temple. Okay.
Yes, exactly.
But probably Dean Perrott was the dean at that time.
I don't think he was quite yet.
Not yet?
Well,
he was running the, he had a national reputation for running one of the departments, and it was, I'm not good with numbers. So
statistics? Was he a statistics?
It wasn't statistics, but it was actuary or something like that.
Oh, okay, yes, okay.
Whatever
that makes
it was.
sense.
I don't know. I love him, but I have no clue about numbers. That's not my thing. Words were always my thing.
So I graduated. I graduated Temple, and then I worked for 3 years for General Electric. I went through their financial management program, and I was served on their corporate audit staff. So I got to travel around the country and the world doing business analysis projects. So it was a really unique experience for a young person to be. I worked in Paris and London, and I did projects in Italy and Spain. They were the highlights, but I was also in Waukesha, Wisconsin, and Fort Myers, Florida, at an accounting center. So some less glamorous assignments as well.
People fight to go to Waukesha.
It was interesting. It was quiet.
How long were you there?
I was with GE for 3 years. So
how long were you in Waukesha?
Oh, I was only 5 weeks, because that was GE Medical Systems, and that was before we went to Paris. So
how long were you in Paris?
For 4 months in the summer.
Isn't that?
Wasn't that tragic?
Formidable. Oh, félicitations.
It was magnifique.
Did you speak French?
I did not and do not. We actually had someone we hired to try to teach us, but we were so busy working, unfortunately, that we really never took advantage of that. So that was a challenge. To live there for that long and not have the language was a challenge. But
where did they house you?
We were in a Sofitel. So it was in the 16th arrondissement. So it was
fabulous.
It was pretty great. We could walk to our office, which was in Issy-les-Moulineaux, which is right outside Paris. So I would walk through a park from the 16th arrondissement, and
well, wherever you walk in Paris, any alley, any gas station, anywhere you walk, there are flowers. There's artwork. I mean,
It's done. The architectural, and you can just look up all day long.
fabulous.
I know. It's
Wherever
remarkable.
you walk, and you have to walk to really appreciate
You do.
it.
I agree.
Because if you drive, you take your life in your hands.
I did try to learn the stick shift over there, which was not advisable.
Oh, no, no. So you worked for 3 years.
So I worked for General Electric for 3 years, and actually, while I was at Temple, I had a really terrific business law class, and it really started. The idea of becoming a lawyer started percolating with me, and so I kept
Is
thinking
anybody in your family a lawyer?
No, no lawyers in my family
What's
at
your
all.
parents do?
My dad worked at Lockheed Martin for his career, and he was an industrial engineer in kind of their space programs, and then my mother was a administrative assistant.
Okay.
So. And my father had gone to night school. He went to college at St. Joe's at night and then got his MBA at night. So I was the first one to go full time in our family. So I decided to, after doing 3 years at GE, I decided to go to law school. And as it turns out, I ended up coming back to go to Villanova. So I attended Villanova, the School of Law at Villanova University.
What did your parents say when you said, I'm not going to work for a living for a while, I'm going to go to law school?
Well, they were, you know what, they were okay because I had saved a lot. You know, while I was working, I was
Okay.
actually able to kind of finance. I had very little, I was lucky, I had very little debt. And I commuted again, so I actually lived at home during law school because my family was still in Delaware County. So unlike some of my colleagues, I was almost debt free, you know, I had very little debt when I came out of law school, so I was fortunate. And I was really fortunate because I worked with Drinker, Biddle, and Reith in Philadelphia. So they were the law firm I went with right out of
A biggie, a biggie.
a big law firm, a terrific law firm, and got tremendous training there, and still have a lot of friends and colleagues there. After I was there for just about 3 years, and then I ended up going in-house with one of my clients as their first general counsel,
Who was the client?
the Judge Group, Marty
Oh,
Judge.
sure.
So
I hear, was it Amy Feldman?
Amy,
is on KYW all the time.
I hired Amy, and Amy became my replacement. Amy and I worked together at Drinker, Biddle, and Reith. So we've known each other for
Interesting.
a long time.
Now, how did you have the courage to start your own law firm, and what year was that?
That was in 2005. So after I was at the
Right before the big recession.
Exactly, I know. I actually, right after so I was with the Judge Group for just a year, and then I had an opportunity to go in-house at Safeguard Scientifics in Wayne.
Oh.
And at the time, you know, that was right before the big tech boom and bust. So I had a tremendous, you know, really unique opportunity to work on a lot of exciting companies.
It was Pete Musser's
That's right.
brainstorm.
Exactly. I worked with
And
Pete.
Rob McCord ran
Yes,
one of
that's
those
where I met.
companies,
That's where I
yes.
met Mr. McCord. And so I had this tremendous experience there, and I'd been there. I was about to have my second child, and I decided to take a little time off in 2005. Well, when I went home, people just started calling me to see if I would do work with them and do some projects. So my law firm kind of organically sprung up from people who had I'd worked with primarily at Safeguard, because it was such a as you might have remember, it was such a big campus with so many different outputs, like, you know, Internet Capital Group and Vertical, and there were all these offshoots from.
And a lot of different companies.
they
I
had
think
a-
Art Spector ran one of their
That's
companies.
right. He's still. I see Arthur every day. I'm still in an office with Arthur.
Yeah, Arthur got through French class at Lower Merion because I gave him the answers, I have to confess.
Oh, I'll remind him of
He is
that. too.
brilliant, but
he is
yes.
indeed. He is.
But French was not his thing.
So my firm started organically. When it started, I didn't know if it would be what I did permanently, but it certainly made sense to be able to pick up some work. So I started my firm in 2005, and ever since then, I've been really fortunate to be able to grow it, and it has provided a great platform to do the sophisticated legal work that I enjoy doing, while also giving me the flexibility to do the work with City Year and others that's so important to me. So I have the flexibility to do the nonprofit, the pro bono work, as well as have a practice that I really enjoy. And
What do you focus on in your practice?
I'm a corporate lawyer, so I do corporate and transactional work. So
What does that mean?
so that means I will negotiate. I buy and sell companies for people. So when they, you know, all right, I'm doing several right now where people are purchasing companies. I'm representing the buyer in 2 transactions right now.
Revel?
No.
Darn!
No, my clients' transactions tend to have a few less zeros on the end of that.
Well, so does Revel.
Well,
as a
that's
matter of
right.
fact.
Yes, in fact.
And many few less zeros. Woo!
Shockingly.
A bargain, 110 million.
For $2 billion.
$2.4 billion.
That's a case study, I guess, worth looking at. But
There'll be a lot of doctoral dissertations written about not just Revel, but whole Atlantic City.
yes,
Rise
I
and
know.
fall, and we hope it's rising again, please.
Yes, I
I've got an
know.
apartment in Ventnor right next door, And I love the slot machines, I have to confess, you know.
Well, they need you.
But, well, they can't have me right now, but
So.
summertime.
So I do a lot of work. I represent venture capital firms, and I also represent the companies in which venture capital firms invest. So I represent the majority of my business is representing early stage companies in formation and in their early fundraising activities, as well as all their contracting activities. So setting up their board, doing all the agreements with their clients and customers and things of that nature. And then I have several high net worth individuals for whom I review their investments. So their hedge fund and other investments. So I've represented a few hedge funds too in terms of their compliance and other activities. So a fairly broad corporate practice.
Who got you turned on to City Year? Somebody must have introduced you or brought you to an event or something.
It was Jerry Johnson.
Oh, sure.
So when I was working at Safeguard, Safeguard was the founding corporate sponsor of City Year in Philadelphia. So back in '97, when City Year wanted to come here, they needed someone to underwrite the first 100,000, and Pete Musser and Safeguard Scientifics wrote that check.
Well, it's nice to be able to write a check with all those zeros.
It would be, wouldn't it? The gentleman from Safeguard who was the representative on the board was leaving, and so Jerry came by my office and asked if I would get involved. And at the time I didn't really know what it was, so I looked into it, and it really resonated with me. The fact that not only are you serving young people, the children in the schools, which was tremendous, but these young people, the core members who are 17 to 24, you see them grow over the course of this year into such confident leaders. They enter, with kids who come from all different backgrounds, and they've got to figure out how to work with other people who are not like them and deliver services in a really challenging environment with all sorts of personalities. So they have such a trial by fire, but it's so transformative. I just love the leverage.
Do they get paid anything at all?
They get a stipend. They get a living stipend, and they also get a scholarship. The AmeriCorps provides a scholarship at the end of the year. If you fulfill the full 10 months of service, you'll get a monthly stipend as well as a scholarship.
It's a scholarship to any college?
Any college, or yes.
Do you find that there are some core members that take a year off from college in order to volunteer with City Year?
That is absolutely one of the paths, and more recently, a lot of them have graduated undergrad and are considering graduate school. So it can be obviously used for both undergraduate, and graduate.
How many volunteers are currently working for City Year in Philadelphia?
We have 255 core members serving today.
Goodness. That's a lot of red jackets.
It's a lot of red jackets.
They all wear red
jackets.
We do.
That's our emblem, of the red jacket, and it's great because the kids in the schools can see that jacket and know there's someone safe who's on their side, who they can turn to if they need some help.
And according to the literature that you left on the tables at this inaugural Women's Leadership Luncheon, which was fabulous.
Thank you.
And I saw people like Rhonda Cohen and Denise Smiler and Elizabeth Vale and the leaders of our community.
We had our committee did a wonderful job of inviting getting their friends and
Dale Leach's wife, Jen, who's a leader in her own right.
Absolutely. So we had a great group of women who thought this was important and thought it was, we used it as an opportunity. We wanted to, I think you're a perfect example of, to expand the awareness of City Year among the dynamic women in our community, because women work so hard and they have so many things to juggle, they often don't have a chance to look up and hear about things like this. So we thought we hosted a luncheon in the Center City at the Union League, which we thought was a great little ironic twist a bit, to be in this great Lincoln Hall.
Mika said, understand, they didn't let us in till very recently, meaning women were not allowed in the Union League, or there were certain places they were allowed in, but not.
That's right, I think that's right.
Yeah, and then when they were desperate for membership, I remember my late friend Marge Broderick was the first woman who was allowed to have a membership in her own name.
Wow.
And that's of recent history, let me tell you, it really is.
Yes, so we were in the stunning room, and we
had the Lincoln Room.
It was wonderful. And
did you notice there were all the portraits of the men who have been the presidents of the Union League, and there was one woman's portrait.
I did notice that.
And I said, well, at least there's one woman up there.
She was in a prominent location, though.
Yes. Yeah, she was very close to what you use for the stage and the lectern. So, yes, that's true.
But we were so fortunate to have Sharice Lilly, who's the president of the Foundation come and speak as well, because not only is Charisse a tremendous advocate for, supporting lots of very worthy organizations within the community, but her daughter Allison was a core member in Philadelphia.
Oh,
so
isn't that
she's a
nice?
parent of an alumnus as well as a corporate supporter. So we were thrilled
And
to
her
have her.
boss, David L. Cohen, the executive vice president of Comcast, is on the national board,
Yes.
right? And his wife Rhonda was also,
Yes.
who's a brilliant attorney in her own right. She was one of the VIPs who, every table had nothing but VIPs as far as the eye could see. So you did a great job
Thank
organizing
you.
that.
I appreciate that very much. Our committee did tremendous work, and we're excited to engage those women next year to continue to do it again, and to invite a speaker or speakers who can really enhance the dialogue, in this community, of women who are often, trying to balance so many different things in their lives, and to take a little bit of time out, learn about City Year, and also have a really interesting discussion about topical issues.
Well, I love that Mika talked about her book, came out a couple of years ago, called Know Your Value.
Yes.
And of course, I watch her every morning, because that's how you know what's going on in the world, really.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I have to read the Inquirer. I read the New York Times online. Sometimes I poke around in the Washington Post as well. But you have to watch Morning Joe and watch the dynamic between Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski with the impossible to spell last name. But you spelled it correctly, so. But when she talks about know your value, and when she pointed out the difference between the male approach to negotiating salary and the female approach, and this was from Hard Knocks School of Life, and when she says, men fight for what they want, and women say, oh, thank you so much, and they want to be liked. And she says, you don't have to be liked. If you're doing your job well, you should get paid, the same thing that a man does. She was terrific.
I thought she was. I really thought she shared a lot of very personal,
yes,
and concrete examples of mistakes she'd made.
Yes.
So that we could kind of, and you saw around the room all the heads nodding.
Right.
So we each, we all share some patterns of behavior that
Yes.
aren't in our professional best interest, but are a function of gender or an upbringing, I guess. So it was terrific to have her, as our advocate and cheerleader up there, remind us of, that's not how, it's not going to work. You can do it, but it's not going to work. So we were so happy to have her, and she spoke about us the next day on Morning Joe. So she showed some of the pictures of the event, and
and Tom Wolf's wife Frances was there, escorted
Yes.
by former state rep Tony Payton.
who's a member of our board.
On the board, and I made sure that I took a picture of Frances with Mika and sent it to Frances. And Frances sent me a personal email thank you note, which I thought was astonishing because she's campaigning across the state for her husband. So
She's
that was
a lovely, gracious woman, and
She
we were
was
thrilled
lovely.
to have her and to introduce her. I think that was really her first exposure to City Year, so we were thrilled to be able to do that. The First Lady of the state has also been involved with City Year, and so we've been really fortunate to be able to reach out.
Susan Corbett. Okay.
Yes, she's been involved in several of our events across and our work across this, by virtue of her role in Harrisburg. So we've been really fortunate to be on both sides of the aisle.
Well, let's give people a chance to copy down the City Year. Okay, the website is www.cityyear.org.
That's correct.
www.cityyear.org, and then they can just scroll down and find Philadelphia.
That's right.
And they'll find a number to call. Or
They will. There's if you'd like to get involved, or if you know of a young person who might be interested in joining the Corps, there is phone numbers and actually an online application that you can fill out. So we'd love for you to check out the website, learn a little bit more about what City Year does. Like I said, it's very research based. We have a very deliberate long-term impact plan where hopefully, over time we're really gonna move the needle nationally on solving this dropout crisis.
And how long is your term for as co-chair of the advisory board in Philadelphia?
I'm at the beginning of a 3-year term. So.
Okay. Oh, well, they're lucky that they're going to have you around for a few years. Anyway,
If they'll keep, I serve at the pleasure, I suppose, but yes, thank you.
our guest today has been attorney Karen Keating Mara with offices right in Wayne, and she is doing a bang-up job working for free, donating her services to City Year. And it's been a pleasure, Karen.
It's my pleasure, Bonnie. Thank you for having me.